Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar Wednesday of Messer Financial. Hope everyone is having a great morning, and thank you for being with us. Today, we're going to be highlighting Benchmark Insurance Group. My name is Troy Felton. I am the president of Benchmark Insurance Group and one of the former owners of Benchmark Insurance Group. And just a little background on me. By the way, I'm joined by Bob Long, and I'll introduce him in a second. But just a little background on me. I have been in the industry for 20 years, been with Benchmark for 20 years, actually started out in contracting and eventually grew in my roles and eventually became part owner of Benchmark. And throughout that time, right around the beginning of my career in the insurance industry, is also the beginning of when Messer Financial started. And that was a time when Messer Financial worked with us with their life business. And I remember some of the early days of being with Benchmark, and Bill and Roy would drop by our office with a stack of contracts. And it's been amazing to see how much Messer Financial has grown. All the great employees that work here, the culture that's here. One of the strong deciding factors for me in coming to join Messer is they did a 20-year anniversary video on YouTube. And if you've not seen that yet, please check that out on YouTube. It gives an overview of the values of the ownership here, the culture here, how they want to ultimately do good by people. And that includes clients, that includes agents, that includes employees, and really got a strong sense of that just through the years of working with Messer. And it really highlighted that in that video for sure. And we share those values. And also with Benchmark is actually older than my tenure with it, which is 20 years. Benchmark goes probably 40 years back. One of the original founders of Benchmark is here with me today. His name is Bob Long. And Bob, I'll let you speak for a little bit about the starts of Benchmark.
Thank you, Troy. Good morning, everyone. We're excited for this opportunity that we have at Benchmark to work with the wonderful agents, the staff that we've joined at Messer Financial, and we look forward to working with you and hope to make this a profitable, enjoyable, professional experience with what Benchmark brings to the table in terms of your insurance marketing. Benchmark has been around since back in the early 80s. As a matter of fact, when Messer got started, I did the training for their agents back in the about 20 years ago, back in the 80s, and they certainly have grown and done a fantastic job. And I think we're all grateful and thankful to have this opportunity to continue to make ourselves more successful in our sales careers. And Benchmark hopes to add to that beyond what you're already doing. As a matter of fact, the things that we certainly have always stood for are, first of all, great service. Secondly, we're very competitive in what we do in terms of the annuities, the life insurance, the long-term care that we work with. And we'll touch on a little bit of that over the next 45 minutes or so to give you an idea of what we have available to share with you. The third thing is that we try to make the agents that we work with be the experts, to be confident in your meeting with your clients, to bring out the best of what you have. So it's not just going to be us telling you what to sell and who to sell with and so forth. We're going to make you the expert when you sit down with your clients to give you the whys and wherefores about why we would recommend a certain product to meet the needs of your client. So that's a little bit about who we are. Again, you'll see that we fall right in with the fantastic service that you've been accustomed to with Messer Financial. So we've grown, Messer Financial has grown, and together with this synergy that we have, we hope to even reach greater heights, and we look forward to working with each one of you.
Thank you, Bob. And just piggybacking off of what you said, really like putting your best foot forward with life, long-term care, and annuity products in terms of offering the most suitable product for your client, something that's going to keep them happy, something that's going to take care of their family. That's going to put you just in an even more stronger position with that client, with the relationship you have with that client. And we think will increase your retention with your health clients, keep them on the books and keep them wanting to do business with you and really trust you in all regards to all products. So moving on, we wanted to touch on some new quoting tools that are available to you. And the first one is iPipeline. You might be familiar with this quoting tool. It has been available up to this point on the Messer website. The thing that has changed with iPipeline is, number one, you're going to need to register. You're going to need to re-register on that, because what we're utilizing going forward is Benchmark's access to iPipeline. And this is going to be the quoting tool where you can quote term and where you can quote GUL products. GUL, if you're not familiar with that, is basically, it's like a term product, but it goes usually to age 100 or beyond. So it's like a permanent guaranteed protection plan. So you'll notice when you re-register for this tool, you'll notice a lot more carriers are going to show up. There's going to be instant access to e-apps on this tool. And one thing that I would like to point out is if you utilize iPipeline through either the Messer website or through the Benchmark website, you can have immediate access to writing an application. You don't have to be contracted first. Typically, if you're going to do an e-app through a carrier website, you would have to be contracted with that carrier first. But you could literally quote your client, find a term plan or a GUL plan, and if they're ready to go, you could start that app the same day that you do the contract. And so that's one thing to keep in mind as you're utilizing that tool. The second tool that we want to make reference to is insurance toolkits. This is something that we're real excited about. It's something that's really become, as it pertains to final expense, it's become the industry standard for streamlining quotes and really just getting quick and instant answers on, if one of your clients has a health issue, or maybe there's some medications they take that you're wondering about how carriers would view that. It'll give you instant answers with all the final expense carriers. Really great tool. And I'm just going to give you a little snapshot right now. This is what the interface looks like for insurance toolkits. It's got just some basic information on where you're going to put in your death benefit, your date of birth, and even the height, weight. And then it gives you two options to either put in the health condition that client has and or the medication. And the reason with certain medications, and we've come across this many times, maybe it's a certain dosage, because it's going to ask you the dosage once you start to put in that medication. I've seen a situation on a heart medication where if it's over 60 milligrams, the carrier is going to decline it on that particular medication. So with a lot of agents on this webinar being health agents, you already have access to those medications that your clients are on. You can go ahead and run these quotes ahead of time before you're meeting with the client. So you're going to know immediately who's going to be the best option for that client. I've run one quick example on how this tool works, and I've had this question actually a couple times really in the past week. There was one agent that asked, I have a client that has COPD. Is there anything better than guaranteed to issue final expense that I can show them? Well, I just ran over to this insurance toolkits quoter, plugged in the information of COPD for final expense, it gives me a list, and it's going to start by the best rates, and it's also going to start by what carriers are level coverage. What level coverage means is immediate coverage, meaning if they get the policy, they die next month, it would pay that death benefit. And the example, these are the carriers you see that are level coverage: Transamerica, SBLI. As you scroll down in this, it's going to show the guaranteed issue carriers, and then if you go over to the right, it'll show the grading period of those graded carriers. So this, for instance, is if they die within the first 2 years, they're going to get their premiums back plus 10%. So that's just a quick teaser on how this tool works. It's really great. We encourage you to utilize this. It'll definitely streamline your quoting and show you the best options that are going to be out there for your client. On that note, we also have Annuities Genius. So Annuities Genius is also a new tool that we've used for annuities. And Bob will talk a little bit later about annuities and different conversations you can have to draw interest. But I wanted to show you a quick example of how this tool works. It's a very robust tool. It has, I believe, over 100 annuity carriers on here. And there's different filters that you can put in based on the needs of that client. So maybe in this example, we've got a 65-year-old client who's concerned about having guaranteed income. And so what we've plugged in this is we got an annuity with an income rider, and at age 70 is when they want to start income. We've plugged that information in. What this is going to do, it's going to give us a list of all the carriers that have those income riders, and it's going to filter it by the highest income. So you see up here, this is annual income on a 65-year-old that puts in $400,000. So we've got Corebridge, and then as you scroll down, you'll see other carriers and then the income that they will guarantee. So something that used to take hours of research in the annuity industry has now been reduced to minutes if you have the proper information. And one of the things that we've created, and we've got some handouts on this webinar. If you click in your upper right-hand corner, I believe it's a paper clip, and it's going to show 3 different handouts, one of which is an annuity fact finder. And so this is going to be just the basic bare bones information we need to get some options started for you in terms of quotes and illustrations. But we encourage you really just to contact us and have a conversation with us about your client and what their needs are, what their situation is. But that fact finder will give you some basics to go off of in terms of questions. Excuse me, let me get back to the presentation. Okay, so the next category that we want to talk to you about, one of the things that we do a lot is find carriers based on one of your clients' complex health history. And, you know, with my 20 years of being in this industry and Bob's 40 years of being in this industry, we have seen certain carriers come and go. We've seen certain specialties and niches from carriers that have come and gone in terms of what they're strong at, what they're not strong at. So we've kind of got a finger on the pulse on where carriers stand out, and part of that's going to be with impaired risk health. So maybe it's a situation where you have a client who had cancer a few years ago. We have some fact-finding questions that you can get, that you can ask, and you can get information from that client. That's another one of the handouts that's in this presentation if you click over to those handouts. And it's going to give you all the questions that you're going to want to ask. Part of that is their medications. Part of that goes into a little bit of follow-up questions about their health history, when they were diagnosed, how they're currently treating it, any other health complications. So it's a list of questions that we help you with on what to ask, but we also have the experience of kind of knowing which carriers will be strong from an underwriting standpoint. And so when you have a complex case, what we do is we shop that out for you. There was, in fact, a high-profile case that we worked with prior to coming over to Messer. This was a large premium, large face amount case, and it was a situation where it got, one agent quoted it and it got declined from that carrier that he quoted it with, and we were asked to kind of go to bat and take the wheel and find some carriers that would be a good fit for. And so that's what we did. And not to say that we can always work magic, because some clients might be uninsurable. And if so, we have suggestions and we have answers for that as well. You might want to sell them a guaranteed issue final expense policy if that's the case. And then there's also accidental death. For instance, there's some carriers that will go up to $400,000 on an accidental death policy that you can combine with a guaranteed issue whole life policy. With that accidental death policy, no health questions, and it gives your client some coverage and some options if they're uninsurable. But the bottom line is, if they do have a chance, we're going to find that out for you, and we'll shop that out. So on this slide, you'll see an example of a male age 45, and this particular quote is for 30 years, $500,000, and for preferred rates. Okay, and when you're quoting term, and you can do this on the iPipeline quoting engine, when you're quoting term, it has the tendency, some agents have the tendency to look at it from a commodity standpoint, and sometimes it could be viewed at that way. You have a long list of carriers, very similar rates, and sometimes it's hard to determine, okay, which one of these do I offer? Which one of these, has some strong features? And that's where we want to come in and kind of help you look under the hood of some of those term policies, because some of those term carriers might have, for instance, better conversion options down the line. If you don't know what conversion means as it pertains to term life insurance, basically all that is, let's take this example of a 45-year-old preferred non-smoker. He gets a term policy, and then let's say 15 years down the line, he gets diagnosed with cancer. Okay, now what has happened there is that has affected his insurability going forward. So if he ever wanted to get a new policy, let's say his term is coming to an end and he wanted to get a new policy, maybe a permanent policy, it's going to be very difficult to get approved based on his health history. The good thing about conversion is at the point that you decide you want to convert, if you're still eligible, and we can help pinpoint the carriers that have the best conversion privileges, if you're still eligible, you can transfer over your rate class. In this example, we've got a preferred rate class with that new permanent policy, and you don't have to go through any underwriting. So there's certain carriers that will stand out in terms of the options that they have for permanent conversion. Another thing that stands out, if we're looking at all the different term carriers, is some of those term carriers will just be basic death benefit. Some of them will have living benefits included. And so if we're looking at a list of, let's just say, 20 to 30 term carriers, there's about a handful of those term carriers that have living benefits. What living benefits are, part of that is going to be critical illness. So critical illness meaning, let's say you have a heart attack cancer or stroke, you can get access to some of your death benefit while you are still living if you qualify. And what I mean by qualify is, with these term policies with living benefits, what will happen is the carriers will take a look at how that has affected your life expectancy, and they'll basically make you an offer as to what you're eligible for. And so just a quick couple stories on that. We've seen real life examples of where this has happened, where people have utilized their term with living benefits. And keep in mind, term policies don't have cash value. So it's not very typical, it's not very conventional that someone's going to get money from a term policy while they're still living, unless it's a return of premium. So one example that we've seen in real life, one of our agents sold a term policy with living benefits for $500,000 to his client. I believe she was in her 40s. And about 6 months down the line, she got diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. Okay. And the agent reminded her, hey, you've got a term policy with living benefits. You should file a claim to see what you might be eligible for as far as the critical illness benefit. And so that's what they did. And long story short, what happened is this company made an offer of $300,000 to this client. And so the client had the option to do nothing. She could just keep her death benefit intact. But this is another option. It's a lot more comprehensive with more options. So this option for her was to take that $300,000, and she still had a small amount of death benefit remaining for final expenses. As far as what we heard from this agent, she went on to go through different treatments for that cancer, and she got through the chemo, and as far as we know, she had an okay prognosis after that. But meanwhile, she had that $300,000 to help pay for some of those medical bills, to help pay for that time out of work, even to pay off some other debt that she had. I mean, she could use it. This is indemnity, so she could use it however she wanted. So that's one example. That's one real life example of how the critical illness component of life insurance with living benefits works. You can also use this in the same regard if you have a chronic illness, which is similar to long-term care. So if a person is unable to do 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, they can potentially qualify to have some of their death benefit accelerated to cover those expenses. And again, we see situations where these pay out in real life. I actually have a friend who got a benefit from this. This is a term plan with living benefits, and he got a benefit from this after having a critical event. So I can't speak highly enough of these types of plans, and not all carriers have them. So there's a handful of them. We encourage you to reach out to us for those carriers who do offer living benefits. It's a great thing to point out to your clients. Even if this flyer right here that we're looking at is a client approved flyer, this is something you can send out to your entire client list saying, hey, do you have the old term insurance or do you have the new term insurance? Here's a quote for the new term insurance. It's not as expensive as you might think. And I would venture to say, if you send this out to all your clients, you'll get some sales. You'll get some term sales with living benefits on this. So yeah, it's a great product to have with life insurance. I personally own a term plan with living benefits, actually with North American. But there's other great carriers out there who offer it. And I also personally own an indexed UL that I overfund. That's another thing we can help you with. If you look at your handouts, there's a fact finder in there pertaining to permanent life insurance, and it's going to give you the follow-up questions to ask based on your client's situation, based on what they're looking to do. Are they looking to just have guaranteed death benefit, or are they looking to grow cash value over time? So based on the person's needs, based on their concerns, based on their goals, we can help customize and pinpoint the proper plan for your client. And I'm gonna transfer this over to Bob to talk a little bit about retirement planning and annuities and long-term care.
Wow, Troy, great job. And I think you can see from what Troy shared with you, and we're just scratching the surface today on the value added that we feel like the Benchmark brings to the table. With our many years of experience in working with hundreds of agents, we get a pretty good view of the whole playing field, not only in terms of things that you will run into when you're meeting with your clients, but also on the other end, the companies that we deal with gives us the ability to help you pick and choose so that when you make a presentation or a recommendation to your prospect, that you're going to have the best value available for your client, and you don't have to worry about some other agent coming in a week, a month, a year later and ask you why you made that decision, because we're always going to prepare you to provide to your client and your prospect the best value available. That's what we'll help guide you to. Now, a lot of you, and we realize that some of you are more and less experienced in dealing with life insurance, with annuities, and with long-term care. These are some of the things that you need to be up to date on, because those of you, which are going to be most of you that are working in the Medicare market, you're dealing with the segment of the population that has about 70% of the assets in this country. So you're dealing with people overall that, number one, are at a point in their lives where they have to make a major decision, which will be the greatest decision that they'll make from this point on in their lifetime, and that is when they're approaching or at or in retirement. We have access to people that we have worked with and created relationships with over the years that we can bring to help us, to help you, in terms of not just how much you're going to receive if you're a client and you're trying to prepare for retirement, not only how much income is going to be coming in, but we also want to make you more well-rounded to discuss and be able to be conversant about things like Social Security, things like taxation after retirement, things like long-term care, because if you look at the latest statistics, you'll understand that 70% of all of us are going to be at some time in our lives in the need of long-term care, whether it's not being able to perform 2 or more of the 6 activities of daily living, but also certain types of dementia where someone needs hands-on supervision, medical care that's immediate. So these are some of the things that need to come up when you're dealing with your clients that are at that point when retirement is going to be something that they're going to make some major decisions about. And when you are able to share some of these things with them, again, it's going to reconfirm that you are their agent. Whatever may come up, you're going to be the go-to person, so that you're going to have more than just one policy in that family, in that household. It's not only the health insurance that we're looking at the types and amounts of retirement income, how we can help your client maximize whatever they have been able to put together in their 30 or 40 or 50 years of working, something that's going to provide their income for the rest of their lives. And I'm sure many of you have seen one of the greatest fears that people have is running out of money before they run out of life. And that's something we can help put you in a position to be the expert in helping guide them to make the best decisions while they're looking at retirement. Now, as far as the annuities, Troy did mention to you that we have a fantastic tool called Annuities Genius that we can help share with you. We can put it to work for you if you ask the right questions and get the information that we need. We'll be able to find, again, for you, for your client, for the best values that are out there. More and more competition means better choices for your clients. And what we'll do is to put you in a position where you're going to be the one that's going to offer the best value for your client, whether it comes to how they maximize their assets, what type, how much, what do you leave for your spouse, how you can best put together an overall plan to make sure that they're taken care of and maintain their standard of living for the rest of their lives. So all of this comes down to, again, at retirement, when we put together plans, and I do this often, I still do personal production, so I think it gives me the right and the privilege to be able to help others maybe make some shortcuts in lessons I've learned the hard way. I've done a lot of things wrong, but we hope to help you guys avoid doing some of those wrong things that some of us on the benchmark side have experienced in our many years in this business, to help get you to the point without taking a sidetrack or getting lost in the forest, so to speak. So I've got so many clients that have so many products that I've been able to put together for them for their benefit. And they're very pleased and happy and sleep well at night, knowing no matter how long they live, they'll be able to live in a comfortable environment for the rest of their lives with adequate income to keep their lifestyle what they've been used to. We do have, in terms of long-term care, that's been a fantastic topic for a number of years now. There have been lots of changes, lots of disruption. A lot of companies that got into the business are no longer in the business, and there's only really a handful of companies in the long-term care business compared to those that used to be in it. The policies have changed. The underwriting has changed. The options available for someone to have long-term care, the options have sometimes been diminished. What we have done over the years, we've kind of tried to ride the wave, so to speak, so that we stay on top of the best choices for your clients in terms of their long-term care, whether it's traditional long-term care, whether it's what we call asset-based long-term care, or whether it's a hybrid type of planning for their long-term care, where we put together a product that has both life insurance, and Troy's also already mentioned some of that with these living benefits. So many people make a decision on the product that they obtain based on multiple positives that product can bring to them. We combine the benefits, such as the living benefits, with a life insurance policy. No one knows how long they're going to live. No one knows the value of their health over the remaining years that they have. But what we do is to help them prepare for whatever may happen. Regarding long-term care, traditional long-term care has become extremely expensive, so that it's no longer the favorite type of ways to prepare for long-term care. Someone's wealth has something to do with whether they are able to purchase traditional long-term care. We have the best that there is in traditional long-term care, but we also have to look at your purse strings for your clients. In that regard, one of the reasons that we began to do more and more of what we call asset-based long-term care, as far back as 20 years ago, we began to see the trends with traditional long-term care in shortening the benefit period, reducing the amount of the benefit, increasing the premiums, so that it's not as nice a policy as it used to be. I started a policy about 25 years ago, thank goodness. one of the best things I've ever done. At that time, I was able to get only a 10-year pay up on that policy. It's been paid for 15 years now. I included the highest possible cost of living benefit in that policy, so that I don't want to let that be a burden on my children, because I saw what my wife went through when her mom developed Alzheimer's disease, and what a disaster it could have been for her family, but what she had to do to take on the responsibility of looking out for not only her mom, her dad, who was in great health. He volunteered to stay with her in an Alzheimer's unit for long-term care, which was very commendable for him. But his care for his wife of over 60 years was such that he actually passed away before she did. And part of that was the strain, the pressure, the emotions of providing long-term care for someone that you've lived with the majority of your adult life. And that is a burden. As a matter of fact, I'm big on statistics. Sometimes the statistics shows exactly what takes place. And the fact is that long-term care puts a person in a position, if they are providing care for someone, the actual care provider dies in 30% of the cases before the person they're giving care to. So we want to make sure that we allow you, when it's applicable, to talk with your clients about the value of long-term care, because 3/4 of everyone they talk to is going to be in a position where they need long-term care. And I'm sure that all of you know someone, maybe it's a family member, friend, neighbor, someone in your church, whatever it may be, you know what the cost of long-term care are. You know that the service varies from one facility to another when they're in a long-term care facility. You know the difficulty of providing care in a household. So what we want to do is to put your clients in a position where they've got a partner. That partner is the insurance company that's going to provide the long-term care. So briefly, with asset-based long-term care, we look for people who have some assets, and we try to look for what we call the lazy assets that are in things like CDs, checking accounts, money market, things that aren't providing a great amount of return. People often term it as the rainy day money for whatever may come up. Well, the largest threat that's going to come up is going to be the need for long-term care and the costs involved in long-term care. If they have an asset that is one that they are not planning to use to provide income during their retirement, we merely show you how your client can move that money from one pocket to the other pocket. They still own the asset. It still earns interest, but we're going to add a long-term care benefit to that asset. We're going to put them in a position where they don't have increasing premiums, as you will find with every long-term care traditional carrier. We're going to put them in a position by using this asset so that it doesn't put a drain on their cash flow. Most of the time, most of your retirees are going to be in a position where they're on a fixed income. And so if they use an asset for long-term care, it will provide the care protection that they may need and will probably need without affecting their cash flow. Thirdly, if you use an asset to provide long-term care, what if long-term care is not needed? With a traditional plan, that money that has been spent, which is not a small amount, may never be utilized by that family. With an asset-based long-term care, it may be that your client never needs long-term care, and that asset then is passed on to the family, to a charitable organization. That money is not wasted. So asset-based long-term care is something that we can provide for you. We can explain it to you so that you can adequately explain it to your client, and then we'll put together the plan that's going to be customized to their particular needs. The third type, again, is the the hybrid type, where we use the living benefits that are attached to life insurance policies or annuities that will allow them to have that protection, whether they end up using it or not. There will be a benefit to go to that family for the money that's paid for that life insurance policy or that annuity, whether long-term care need is accessed or not. So that's what we can help you with in terms of long-term care. Most of you are already highly enabled and experienced in health products. This is just another health product that's going to be something that all of your clients are going to want to hear about. So that's part of the retirement planning, as well as the annuities with the annuity-based plans that we have that can put the best value in your hands to present to your client, and we will make you the expert, so that with just a few questions that you bring to us about your particular client, we can put the best product in your hand and explain to you how it works, so that you will be confident when you make this presentation that your clients will understand how this is going to impact their retirement. So when Social Security questions come up, we can even help out a little bit with that. So we're well-rounded in helping you help your client, for you to put you in a position where you're going to be the expert in that family when it comes to insurance, health care, retirement planning, so that you are going to continue to develop that relationship with those clients literally for the rest of their lives. Troy, is there anything else that you can think of regarding retirement planning that we need to talk about?
Yes. Thanks, Bob. That was great stuff. Just a quick piggyback on the long-term care topic, and this is a plug for you'll see in the categories here home health care, and you'll see right under that short-term care. And so what these are really a couple carriers that really stand out, one of which is available for you to quote on the MyMFG platform. So that's Manhattan Life. And the great thing about that product, there's some training videos that we have on that. Bill Rice actually did one I think it's like 7 minutes or so, and it kind of goes over how to quote it on MyMFG and just the value of it. But just a quick plug on that particular product, that will provide care in the home exclusively, only the home, up to $450 a day for the Premier plan. And this could be nursing care, physical therapist, whatever it may be. So it's a great plan. It's a great supplement if you have traditional long-term care. Maybe you have life insurance. It's a great supplement to that, because it might meet some of those needs that you have maybe during the elimination period of those other plans. Or let's just say the client's in a situation where they can't afford traditional long-term care or life insurance or annuities. The home health care plan is extremely reasonable with price. So the issue ages on that particular plan are 45 to 89. And the average premium, and this kind of goes based on what age you are, but the average premium is around $40 a month. So again, to have a plan like that will provide up to $450 a day max, up to a year. It has restoration of benefits if you haven't used it in 6 months. And it has a prescription drug reimbursement. So if you're on a certain amount of name brand drugs, it will provide a reimbursement up to $600 per year. So just think about that. If the average premium is $40 and one of your clients is on a host of drugs, and you as the agent follow up with them every year, as you normally do anyway for AEP, you follow up with them and say, hey, you've got this reimbursement feature. Let's get a list from your pharmacy. Let's file that with this plan, and we'll get you your $600. So you are reminding them of that benefit. So it's potentially a plan that can pay for itself. It's on the MyMFG platform. You could write it immediately. It takes probably about 10 minutes to do. So just a great plan, something to keep in mind, and we can get you information on that if you want. So the last thing we'll talk about is training opportunities. So we wanted to spend this time this morning with you just to kind of give a quick overview of some of the areas we specialize in, and some of the different products that we work with, companies that we work with. But essentially, you as the agent, or maybe you're an agency owner, maybe you have downline agents, you have specific objectives and maybe goals, and maybe there's a certain subject that you want to provide training on to your downline agents. Get in touch with us and we can schedule a time to do that for your downline agents to focus on a specific topic. So that's a service we can provide to you as it pertains to life and LTC and annuity training. So we thank you so much for being on the call today. We will go to the portion where there's questions, and if you could just type in any questions you have in the chat feature over to the right, and we'll take a look. We'll take a look at what questions we have. Oh, wow, we've got a lot. Okay. Okay, so the first question. After 25 years, I've lost all my LTC plans due to rate increases. Why would I ever sell it again when carriers want to shed that book?
That is a great question, Troy. If you don't mind, I'll try to answer that. I've had the same issue with my clients. I've probably sold long-term care for maybe 30 years. And with those traditional plans, what has happened is, as you know, every 2 or 3 years, there's a 15, 20, 30% increase to people that are primarily in a situation where they don't have the cash flow. They're on a fixed income. And so we've had to kind of begin to cut corners in the amount of the benefit, the length of the benefit, reduce the amount of the cost of living benefits they have. And so I've been able to, I don't think I've lost anyone, but certainly they have plans now that provide a lot less than when they started these plans. This is why we began to look at asset-based long-term care. And again, everyone's not going to have the amount of money that would be required to provide a worthwhile long-term care policy. But asset-based is going to be a far, far improved product than the traditional long-term care in most cases. And what Troy just mentioned about the short-term long-term care is a great product because it is affordable. It does provide at least some coverage during at least a 1-year period for long-term care. We also, that's for care. We can go both with home health care, or we can go with facility care, or we can go with what would cover both, depending on the needs of your client. So if you will get in touch with us about any specific prospect you have, when you ask us a few questions of your clients, your prospects, whichever it may be, we can guide you to what would be most something we customize for that particular client is the best that we can say, because it will vary from person to person. But I would say don't just give up on long-term care, because there's a tremendous need, and we have a number of different tools that may help out most of your clients. Okay, we're going to look at another question.
Okay. Let's see here. Can you click on that one? Okay, please state if you'll be following up with attendees giving us PDFs of this specific webinar presentation. Yes, we can send the PowerPoint for this webinar. And if you're unable to pull the attachments, we can get that to you as well.
Yes, another question is, we have long-term care with no rate increase. Yes, we're very serious about that. When we look at both asset-based long-term care and what we call hybrid policies, there is no increase ever in those policies whatsoever. The benefit is maintained, and in some cases, especially with our asset-based long-term care products, their benefit will increase over the years, and there will never be a cost increase. So this is one of the many reasons why asset-based long-term care and hybrid policy long-term care have become the most popular, a matter of cost, not only initially, but throughout the long-term care coverage period. So yes, we're very serious about that.
And that one thing that you can point out to clients is you can bring up the fact that traditional long-term care policies have the rate increases, and that's even a stronger selling point to sell them. Maybe it's a life plan with LTC benefits. It's not, a good thing to say with those life plans with LTC benefits is it's not a use it or lose it proposition. So if the client never gets into a long-term care situation where they need long-term care, they're still having a death benefit that's going tax-free to their beneficiaries.
Or an annuity benefit, right, if we sell an annuity with a long-term care benefit. We have another question that says, do you need to get appointed with all these companies? No. Here's what we do. When we work with an agent, we might recommend, depending on your clientele, we might recommend 2 or 3 companies to get appointed with initially. And then as the needs arise for us to be able to customize whatever plan policy would be applicable to your client, you may want to add one here or one there, but that's something we'll guide you to. We'll give you a number of core companies, maybe 2 or 3 to start with, but then we will branch out as needed as you run into clients with different types of needs.
Right. And earlier on, I referenced even going to our quote engine, and you're seeing an option that the client wants to go forward with. The good thing about life carriers is they treat it as a just-in-time appointment. So it's not a situation where you have to get pre-appointed with a bunch of carriers prior to writing the business. With a life plan, you could, for most states, you can write it the same day as you fill out your contract.
Troy, I'm going to let you answer this next question.
Okay, I came in a few minutes late. How does this exactly integrate with Messer? Do we launch from my MFG into iPipeline, or do we have separate platforms? That's a good question. So with that, the good thing about, regardless of whether you go to the Messer site as you're used to, or if you go to the Benchmark site, because Benchmark still has a website, we're basically just the new life and annuity division of Messer. We still have a website. The good thing is the links for that quoting tool are the same. So if you're going to log into it from Messer, it's going to be the same login as if you log into it from Benchmark. How long does it typically take to get appointed with carriers? So that varies. A lot of these carriers will do background checks. So sometimes with the background check, that'll cause it to be maybe a week or 2. But again, this is not something that's relegated to, oh, you have to wait until your appointment's active to write that new business. You can write the new business the same time you send it in the contract. And in a lot of cases, that's what's going to expedite your contract.
Yes, companies are more interested in getting you contracted more quickly when you have business ready to go. And that happens quite often with our agents.
Okay. Would you please put up? Yeah, that's something. Would you please put up your contact info? That's something we did not put on that. We put our pictures, our lovely pictures, but that's something we can get out to the attendees. And if you call in, the good thing about our situation now is we are in, like, our address is Messer's address. So we are in the Messer home office. And so if you call up Messer and you ask for us, you'll be directed to us.
Troy, here's another question specifically about long-term care. Do we have a document that shows conditions that are automatic declines for long-term care? I don't know that we have such a document. I don't know that such a document exists because of how that varies from type of product to different conditions for different policies. But I will say this, in terms of, and I'm going to one of our more lenient answers for long-term care. When you have an annuity with a long-term care benefit, and this would be an asset-based product, they are extremely lenient because they're not underwriting the mortality when it's an annuity. They're only looking at the morbidity. So in that regard, and I've been selling this type of product for close to 30 years, I can count on one hand the number of people that were turned down, even with severe health issues, because unless your client has usually two very severe situations like cancer and a stroke, or a stroke and heart problems, for example, and severe heart problems. I can only remember 2 or 3 in 30 years that I've had turned down for an annuity with a long-term care benefit. Now, the negative to that is if it's an annuity, it's going to require a lump sum deposit. And obviously the amount of that deposit is going to determine the amount and or length of that long-term care benefit. But yes, again, if you have specific situations with your clients, if you will get as much information as you can about their health and their health history and bring it to us, if there is a way to provide long-term care for that client, we will do it. As a matter of fact, we have one of our annuities with one of our companies will provide long-term care regardless of their health. So we can help everyone to some degree. It depends on the resources they have as to the degree and whether they would want to get involved in that. So please bring that information to us and we'll find if there is an answer and what the best answer is.
Yeah, and just quick piggyback off of what Bob's saying. Of course, he's talking about the annuity combination with LTC product. But even if we're looking at the lower cost items like the Manhattan home health care product that I mentioned earlier, the great thing about that product is, again, it's providing benefits up to a year, so it is limited. However, to qualify for that, there's only 2 health questions. So the 2 health questions are you currently in a nursing home or facility? That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, are you unable to do 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, which is basically the trigger to get a claim. So if they are able to answer no to both those health questions, they can qualify right away for that 1-year home health care product that you can write on the MyMFG enrollment platform. Any other questions?
Let me say this quickly, Troy. We've got a number of questions regarding can you get a link to the recording, and yes, we will provide that to not only those that participated, but also to those that signed up that had a conflict that could not attend today. We did have a large number of attendees, but we will get this link out to you probably within 24 to 48 hours so that you can go back and review it. Please do, and please feel free to get back in touch with us with any questions that we have not been able to answer today. You all have been very kind to stick with us for at least the last hour or so, and we appreciate that. We know you have other important things to do. We hope that you will remember us when you look at other types of marketing that maybe you haven't done as much as you want to do and are capable of doing. And we're going to give you the tools to make you excel in things other than just health insurance. Troy, do you want to close out?
That's a great conclusion. Again, we thank you for being with us this morning, and please get in touch with us with questions, and we look forward to getting to know each and every one of you and working more with you. Have a great day, everyone.